Right, we can get started. Welcome, everybody, um, to our first Women's Initiative meeting. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Jenny, who'll be running the meeting.
Hi, thank you, Jenny. We have like a ton of Jennies, and then I'm excited. So welcome everyone to our inaugural Women's Initiative meet and greet via Zoom. I'm really excited. There's a lot that we have planned for the women here in Illinois, and we know that it's going to grow. So let me actually do this. Let me shut off my email, or else it's going to keep pinging me. Okay. So if you want to share your camera, feel free. It's always nice to see faces. Every time I see a female ref, I always get excited and I have to contain myself. And I'll go after the game and I'll hug and squeeze them really tight and be girl power, girl power. So I'm really excited for this women's initiative in Illinois. We like to be the leaders, and we are the leaders with a lot of referee stuff for the country. So we want to continue that and make sure that the ladies here are able to feel supported, receive the resources and the guidance that they need in order to make their refereeing experience and career, if they choose to go further, one that is memorable, that is exciting, and that they continue to pursue in some form or fashion as they go through the ranks, if that's what they choose to do. So with that said, we have about 19 folks that are joining us today. We had about 41 register. We are recording this so that way, for those who were unable to attend live or they missed certain parts of it, they can go ahead and review it. Um, Before we get started, I want to do a few pieces of housekeeping, which the first one is if you want, grab a piece of paper and a pen to jot down any questions that you have. We did outline in the email what we're going to try to go over tonight, and this is going to be very interactive. So if you have questions, I want you to make sure you feel comfortable enough to ask them, and I don't want you to forget them. So jot them down, and you're gonna get some pretty solid advice and guidance from Becky and Yuzim tonight. So I want you to be able to write that down so you have notes for yourself. And I do want to plug, Jenny, do you have the exact dates? Because I just closed out my calendar too, which wasn't very helpful now that I'm thinking about it in hindsight. But next month we have an advanced field session for women only. And then in December we have our holiday soiree where we're going to meet each other in person over at the ISRC offices. And we're going to have some really fun giveaways and games. So with that said, I want you to mark your calendars, and Jenny will send that out to you guys as well. Now, I want to get on to the part that you guys are just kind of dying to participate in, which is we have our very own pro referee who has decided to go out on top, what, last weekend, 2 weekends ago? 2 weekends ago, Becky Pagan. You've seen her on TV. She's refed professional games. I mean, just dynamic and an inspiration to us all. And she's from the state of Illinois. Super, super sweet woman. I'm going to let her explain and describe all of her accomplishments because I can't even wrap my arms around it. It's just amazing. And she has a baby who is cuter than a reindeer. It's so just amazing all that she's been able to do. And then we have Miss Yuzim Valencia, who was our youth referee of the year. How many years ago, Yuzim? It feels like last year. No, but maybe what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, it
Referee?
was 3 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. And wonderful, wonderful, just loving spirit and just super sweet. And so you'll find that within the female referee community here in Illinois, that we do support each other. We come in with an open heart. But we make sure we apply the considerations and laws of the game fairly and consistently. So in all of the webinars and meet and greets and in person, you're going to get a lot of referee development. It's not just about us getting together and just praising one another. We're going to learn, and we're going to learn hard because we, as you all know, have a tough time sometimes, on the pitch, and we want to make sure we go out there as ready as possible for the games that we're given. And if you want to ref higher level games, we want to make sure you're ready for that. So we are all about business and support as well. So, with that said, I want to hand everything over to Miss Becky, and she'll introduce herself. And so, remember, we're going to go over this format. She's got some ideas and some tips and some guidance for you guys, and I'm going to just kind of ask the questions. But if you do, right. Before I forget this, Jenny, we can have them type in the comment box or raise their hands, right, for questions.
Yes, they can raise hands, I believe, and there's chat and question and answer. There's a Q&A.
Okay, so at the bottom of your screen, I'm sure you guys are familiar, but I just want to remind you, you can either raise your hand or type in your question. We want to make sure that we answer all your questions tonight. So I'm going to hand it off to Miss Becky so she can introduce herself and tell you about all the stuff that she's done. And we'll start with her. Miss Becky.
Thank you, Jenny. Um, okay, welcome everybody. It's really great to see people here and to know that you guys are interested in soccer refereeing and you just so happen to be female. Um, we're all welcome because we are a very large underrepresented group, and so we welcome all underrepresented folks because it's hard for all of us. And so if we can cheer each other on and support each other, it's really fantastic. As Jenny was saying, I was a professional referee for quite a few years. I refereed for over 30 years on the field. So it's been a very long career for me. And I just very recently retired from the field. I had a great run, and it's just that time in my life when I need to stay home with my family a little bit more, right? I'll still be out there and about, but not as much travel. Um, but I've done a lot of things. I came up through the youth ranks. I started very young, and I did go to the youth regional events, learned a tremendous amount from colleagues, from the teachers that we had there. A lot of that was fantastic. I moved up slowly and, eventually upgraded my license, went to tournaments around the country, learned from people in other places. That's really important. People do things, even though they're following the laws and considerations, they might have different habits. Teams have different tactics. And so seeing the variety of age levels, ethnicities, working with people, those are always massively valuable. So doing those types of things, doing national championships. I also refereed in college, and I've been to high levels there. All of the NCAA Final Fours for all on the women's side. I also went to NAIA, and there's those accomplishments. Did the Big Ten final at one point. Uh, Gee whiz. I did do a FIFA warm up for the U20s World Cup. It was just a friendly tournament. That was back in, I'm trying to remember exactly. Was it back in 2016? I think that was. Um, so it's seeing different levels, like I said, different levels. You're seeing national teams, you're seeing youth teams, you're seeing amateur teams. Eventually, I'm seeing professional teams. It's If you've got the commitments and you really want to do it, things can go places. As Jenny mentioned, I do have a daughter. She's 3 years old. So I did climb the mountain of becoming a mother and then going back on the field as a professional referee and working with the professional athletes. It's a giant mountain to climb, but it is possible. I do want to kind of hint that quite a few of our FIFA panelists have children. And so it is possible. It is definitely possible to have a family and be out there at a very high level. So bring questions, bring enthusiasm.
All right, thank you, Becky. And I want to shift over to Miss Yuzim, our youth referee of the year. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what your experience has been, so the other ladies can get to know you as well.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Yuzim Valencia. Majority of the time, you will see me out with my Papa Bear. He goes out to all of my games. I have had the opportunity to work with both of these wonderful women. Last year, actually, I had the chance to work a USLW final with Ginny. She was the fourth official. I was AR, and I've been reffing for 6 years now. I always tell myself ever since I was young, the sky's the limit, so try to go reach it. My next step is getting my regional badge. Doing that slowly but surely, not to stress myself. I'm also self-conscious that I am 21 years old. I also have a career besides refereeing. Still trying to finish school. It feels like it has been forever. I want to be finished with school now. Um, I've been going to regional events representing Illinois. Last year, I got the opportunity to represent the Midwest over in Kansas City, over in nationals. So it has been a good career. I have three siblings as well. My sister, she's also a referee, Yatseni. So Yatseni, you have to participate, girly. Um, she's always, trying to push me up and, try to work my way up when I feel stressed or something. She's that girl that maintains me on my toes. Um, and yeah, I mean, I always wanted um a role model, not just as a referees, but a woman referee that motivates me. And I've always reached out to Becky, to look at her games and see how she does. So I think that could motivate us as women to individually try to work our way up and just like Beyonce says, what is it? Diva is I don't remember, but the
Girl
song
version
is
of a
Diva by
hustler.
Beyonce. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, we run the world, and if you guys have any questions, reach out. I'm always um available. Um, if not, I'll be on the game. But after that, I will answer. Thank you so
All
much for
right. Well, thank you, Miss Yuzim. So you all have met Jenny from ISRC. She is the most amazing manager. I mean, she's fabulous. I mean, without her, nothing would get done. And then you've met Miss Becky and you've met Miss Yuzim. And so now we're going to get to business because that's what we're about. And so one of the things that we talked about in the invitation is we're going to go over as best we can 5 areas: what to expect as a female soccer referee, because a lot of times being able to be affirmed, and this is also my experience, so it's not just me, does wonders. For those of you who don't know, I am a psychological surgeon over at International High Achievers. So I'm always about the mind, and being a referee is so mental, especially when you're on the pitch and you're trying to center, if you have the whistle or if you're AR, there's a lot of dynamics and you will doubt yourself. You make, really critical decisions in just a matter of split seconds. So, I mean, they're going to talk with you about what to expect as a female referee. And a lot of that may resonate with you, and some of that not just yet. As you advance and climb the ranks, you'll probably be ready to experience that and you won't be blindsided. So we have two great people to help us talk about that. How to handle conflict during games, techniques for effective game management, what to do when you feel unsafe, because that is a whole referee thing. It's not just females, but for females, it's a hypersensitive thing because we are females and a little more vulnerable. And then self-care after you've had a challenging game. I know I've needed it. I've called people and just been like, what was that? And so we don't want you to feel like that's not something that happens. It happens with men and women, but I think women, we process things a little differently. So we'll talk about that. So with that said, I'm gonna throw it out there, Becky and Yuzim. And if you guys can give us, two things, one or two things, what can our refs who are females, what can we expect when we're on a game as a referee? What does that actually mean? It sounds great, but what does that actually mean? What should we expect?
Yuzim, do you want me to start or you start?
sure you could start for this one.
All right. Gosh, what to expect as a female referee? Well, I don't know. I come from this, as an anthropologist. So we're bringing the whole baggage of our culture with us. And so with that, we live in a culture here in the United States where It's not expected that women are authority figures. And that is exactly what a referee is an authority figure. And so knowing that, even when we step out on the field, we know that everyone else, male or female or none, is not expecting us to be the authority figure and will automatically question us. And so know that, expect that. That's one of the extra challenges that you bring to the field, but that does, I think, also help us in terms of we are very quick to develop into learning the laws and their application. When I first started, I had positioning like nobody else because I needed to sell my calls. And so I was never going to be standing there in the referee circle in the middle. I was always getting into the 18 and out of the 18 and from sideline to sideline, because that was one way that I could show that I definitely had the call. I was present. There was nobody else who was closer than me. I was the neutral party. I was the closest. I had the best view. So knowing that I was going to be not trusted right away as an authority figure helped me catapult my positioning and my movement very quickly. You know, learning foul recognition, that came also pretty darn quick, but it was very much my positioning movement really skyrocketed first off. That's what I expected early. It doesn't mean that it doesn't continue. But the more you're around, the more respect you accumulate. And if you walk out with confidence, that does help a lot too.
So I'm gonna ask you for clarification. I'm gonna be Socratic,
Yeah.
just so people know. I just go deeper. I don't know why. So you were saying that, the more you're around, the more they respect you. You were talking about confidence. So let's talk with confidence, and we can build up to the more you're around. What does that look like for a female ref? What does that look like? And what does that feel like inside for us?
Well, I mean, at first, I do believe in the fake it till you make it. When you start accumulating the correct calls, when you start accumulating that, your confidence will grow. It also grows with your body movement, your posture, and how you actually physically appear. If you show up to a game looking polished, with your uniform in order, with your hair in order, with your bag, with your equipment is in order, those are all little indicators to people that this referee knows what they're doing. It's been pointed out to me several times when I've done amateur games and it's coming up. I would show up, that hour early, or, depending on the level of the game, show up and I do my field inspection. And as players, coaches are arriving to the game, they see me checking the nets. They see me checking all the lines. The whole field inspection that we do cover in the laws of the game, I'm actually doing it. And they already say, oh, this referee knows what they're doing. Even though at first I was kind of just walking around like, I don't know, they got flags and stuff, but even just walking the field for the field inspection sets the tone of what they're going to expect. So those are some of the things to start with when you do your signals, when you're on the field. Always a straight elbow, always a straight wrist, confidence. You can sell quite a bit, even if you're kind of unsure, if you look posture and poised, and you can look that confident, and people will believe you. And you'll start believing in yourself really well.
And so one of the things that you said that I thought was really interesting is what we call like the tech, not so much tech, is it technique, the technical skills, right? The straight arm, straight elbow, straight wrist, because that helps us look neater and cleaner and more, right? So I'm wondering, when we're out there and we're not sure, what do we do? I mean, we're going to fake it till we make it, but the things that we can do right away, it's like, be neatly dressed, make sure you have all your stuff in order, be there early on time. The technical stuff we're going to learn when we, especially next month at ladies, when we do our field session. But yeah, for the rest of the season, make sure you're neat, make sure you arrive early, make sure you check the fields. So then that way people are like, oh, they know what they're doing. Even like Becky said, even if we're not exactly sure what we're doing, we're going to do the behavior, right? And then as we do the behavior, we're going to become more familiar with it. Did I get that, Becky?
Yeah, you'll start to feel the part. You'll be looking the part and you'll start to feel it. People will start giving you that respect and you'll feel it and your confidence will grow.
Wonderful. Thank you. I love that. I love that, Becky. What about you, Miss Yuzim? Because you are still coming up, and I know Becky is one of your mentors, and she has really supported you well. And we've seen you blossom and your technical skill. I mean, it's just really sharp in a short amount of time. What is it that some of our women can expect as a referee?
I think Becky hit the nail with what she mentioned. You know, there's a lot of times where men see us and they kind of feel like, oh, a woman is gonna do the center. And I personally, when I heard that, I get really mad, and I'm like, I'm gonna show you that I could do it either better or be just as good as a man. And I think just being self-conscious of there's people that overestimate you and that's not good or belittle you. And so trying to stay on top of things. Becky also mentioned the point where positioning, I had the same issue. Or I believe I do. So I try to position myself, try to, scan a little faster because there's times where players play way too fast, and so I have to constantly be scanning because I don't have, besides I'm small, I don't have the same speed of a player. So I think, trying to encourage whether it's a female or a male, trying to encourage them, hey, you got this. Entering the field with a very confident mindset that you got this and you'll do everything fine. In the beginning of my career, I started in non-affiliated leagues to the ISRC. So I think there's a lot of machismo out there that they're still, trying to develop. And I think that, seeing a woman out there and just killing it will do the work, of course, trying to read considerations and the rules and, the whole preparation of a referee would help a lot. And I mean, we're here for you. There's a lot of other mentors that will always be able to, reach out. But yeah.
So what I hear you saying, Yuzim, is definitely take to heart what Becky just shared. And on top of that, know that there's support for you. There's referee mentors, referee coaches, and being able to keep, and what I heard you describe, although you didn't say it outright, but I thought you described it beautifully, was that there are some people, to Becky's point, that, are going to have a tough time with us as authority figures. But what I heard you add to that, and what I heard you add to that is, don't make that your problem. Don't make that your problem. You go out there and you're like, oh, at my worst, I'm going to be average. I'm going to be just as good as a man, but that is at my worst. At my best, I'm going to be amazing. And having that type of mindset. Did I get that or did I miss something?
You did. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I think one of the things that I hear both of you saying is that there's so many people who might underestimate women going into it. We're going in at a disadvantage, unfortunately. I love the reference that you made, Becky, about being an anthropologist. It's that whole notion that, everything that we show up as is part of our culture. It's inherent in us, right? It's just kind of, and when people show up, they show up with their bag, right? And so for Yuzim to say, don't make that your problem. Right, you go and you ref your game, I think is really powerful. So thank you for that. Is there anything else you two want to add about that? Because these are all going to end up mixing and blending in with the other questions and points anyway. But is there anything that you guys want to add to that?
I don't want to add, but if anybody has any questions about that or has had any run-ins, go ahead and feel free to jump in. Um,
Oh, there's Isabel. Or is that John? John Riddle. Go ahead and speak, my dear.
There we go. Hi. Just to make sure my audio's on. Uh, Obviously, I'm just here just because I actually worked with Jenny last month. You and I worked together at Oak Forest, and just listen to this presentation here. And my daughter does a little bit on the lower level IWSL kind of thing, and I know she got intimidated a couple years ago by coaches and actually parents as a center, and shied away from it. And I told her, "You got the power. You got the cards in your pocket. Sling them." And show them who's the boss. And if you get nothing else, tell the coaches and have them kick the parents out, because obviously club is different from high school. But now all she does is AR, because she doesn't want to have to deal with all that and kind of just sit back and just do the AR stuff. But I kind of want to touch on what you guys were talking a little ago about controlling the field and the play. And I'm just going to speak on behalf of the one time that you and I worked together, Jenny, with Oak Forest and Bremen High School, where Bremen center backs were barking the entire time about plays or whatever else. And during a time where there was a center back was on the left back was on the ground due to an injury, you walked over to the whole defensive team and just told the boys, relax, chill, take it easy, take a deep breath. You can, I mean, to the point where they kept barking, and to the point where one guy goes, the captain of the defense actually pulled his players back and said, "Okay, we're good. Thanks, ref. Thank you." And pulled them back. I mean, you controlled the entire situation, the entire game. And whether any coaches or any players were barking about anything, you just kind of looked at them and kind of said, "You keep playing," and controlled the entire game. And I sat back. I was like, damn, I would ref with you any single time, because you controlled that entire game. So I just want to applaud you for what you did during that game today. And that's all I really wanted to say about that. But just, I'm going to sit back and kind of check my emails here too. But I'm listening to you guys, you ladies, and just keep doing what you're doing. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I do remember you. I'm not great with names, but thank you very much. I do remember your face, and I do remember that game. And the fact that you have a daughter and you're sitting in and listening and encouraging her, that's huge. To have her dad or just men say, "You got this." Not that it needs to come from a man, it comes from us too, but to know that, with the culture piece, for a man to say, "No, you're just as good as any guy." Because one of the things, women, I want to just make sure that you understand about what Becky shared with culture is that in our culture in America, men get to fail up. They get, am I wrong, Becky? I mean, they get to fail up. Every time they fail, they get promoted. I don't know how that works, but they just, right. They just do. And we don't, but we do. I tell people, especially the ladies, ask for what you want. And there I was at a college at the beginning of college season, and I forget the guy who came up to me, but I was with Carolyn and she was at the podium, and I want to share this story with you all because feel free to use it. He said, "I don't think women are ready for, the World Cup. I think they're not solid enough, they're not trained enough." And he said this to me at Carolyn. And I'm paraphrasing. I kid you not, can't make this up. And I know his name. I'm not going to say his name because everyone would go, "Oh, of course he would say that." But I he was just talking and talking and yapping, and I just stood there, and Carolyn was just like, and he said, "What, don't you think? Don't you agree?" As if I'm going to at any point agree with any of the crap he said. And I said, "You know what, so and so?" I said, "There are a lot of male refs who are horrible at the game." And I said, "When we get as many unqualified and horrible female refs as there are men, then we can have this conversation. Until then, we need to catch up with you all." because one of the things that people do is they try to keep you in a place where they feel better than you, and they're not. And this isn't even about competition. We are all growing and evolving. So when someone tries to make you feel bad or try to pull you down, I just want to remind you, they can only do that if they're already beneath you. So I don't ever want you all to listen to someone tell you how bad you are and make you feel bad, because chances are that's how they feel. And if you ever need us, we will remind you of that. That is not for you to take on and own. Okay. So thank you so much for sharing that. And then there is a question, ladies, from Jenny Blank, and she wants to know, how much do you let the coaches rant and rave about calls they disagree with? Like, let it go or address their behavior? Like, that's a great question, because I remember I still have that question. How long do you guys let that go? Now I'm gonna,
For me, I think for the most part, I think I take this back to the set. If it's kind of personal, then you address it. I attempt, when there's dissent or when there is that disagreement, of course, I let the coach, have his push out of frustration. Um, but just giving them a nice and solid answer, and of course, not be laughing around, being firm on what you're saying. Uh, we'll tell that out. I used to have that issue on where I would kind of get intimidated. Um, but of course, bringing Papa Bear back up, he's like, no, you're not gonna take that crap. If you are, you're just you're gonna let anyone yell at you. So stand out there, nice and brave, and say, I'm not gonna take that crap, and tell them what you think. Of course, not based on the loss of the game. Have an answer based on the loss of the game, and of course say it nice and firm, and let him know that I'm not going to take all of this, because it's something that shouldn't be allowed, whether you're a man or a woman. But of course, you're just letting them know that you have a personality and you're just going to answer back. It doesn't matter. You're not going to stay quiet, right? So of course, answering with a nice and strong answer and basing it off to the loss of the game.
yeah. So Becky, what might you say? What has been something you said? Because I'm imagining you've said a lot, because I mean, look at how many games you've refed at the highest levels, right? What would you say to a coach if they're ranting? How would you go over and, to Yuzim's point, be firm using the laws of the game and your personality? What is something that you've said?
Uh, I guess it's a little, it depends on what the rant and rave is and how it's being done. And Yuzim did touch on this. And so it's if they're asking a question very loudly versus if they are dissenting, if they are going beyond dissent and entering into send-off area, set your bar, and it's always there. And you'll probably agree with me, once you've dismissed your first coach, your first technical area person, the next one is much easier. You got to get to the first one. The first one is going to feel very difficult. If you haven't dismissed a coach yet, it's very difficult to know where your bar is. But once you've done it, once you get that under your belt, it gets so much easier to keep reinforcing your line. And it's very dependent on what's going on. I mean, I have dismissed a U9 coach for misogynist comment that was said very loud, and I told him exactly what it was for. It was a U9's girl game, and he said a very misogynist comment, which I won't want to repeat, and I dismissed him. And because it's a U9 game, my voice isn't very loud, but it was then, because there's not that many people there. And I was sending a message to him, to every parent, and to all those girls playing there, that I'm going to support them, I'm going to protect them, even if it's against their coach.
Mm.
He was shocked because I don't think he realized what he brought in his culture to the field and what came out of his mouth. But when I told him exactly why he was being dismissed, he, one, looked incredibly embarrassed and then accepted the decision because he knew he was in the wrong. And I don't need to just say you're wrong today. I need to change his behavior, which is why I told him why the comment was wrong. And it's very brief. I just told him that's a misogynist comment. I'm not going to take you attacking half of the population. You're dismissed. And he reflected on what he said. It registered and he left the game.
So, Becky, we have, and I love that because I'm like excited and I want to have pom-poms right now, but I don't. But the point is that when when we have like our younger refs, right? For U9, they'll be like, the refs can be 13, 14, 15. What can we give them of ours to borrow to have that courage, that confidence, right? Because it's so hard because those coaches are adults, right? And even if they're 16, 17, like they're minors, they're right. What can they borrow from us to help them?
I practice. I practice, and then I found out a good friend, mentor of mine, he also would do the exact same thing. He'll just be kind of walking around the house. He said, he'd be he'd be taking a shower and he'd be going through potential conversations with coaches. Sometimes, once you get to a certain level, you start knowing the coaches, they start knowing you. You can do your research and find out about them. But if you're at the youth level and you don't really know, just pick a coach from your past, whether you witnessed them as the referee or as an assistant referee, and make up your own conversation with them. Come up with your own one-liners, your own zingers, and practice dismissing them. Practice telling them, that's enough, you've crossed the line. Your game is over. Practice holding up a card. Practice that. Look yourself in the mirror. Go through those. Say it out loud. If you rehearse it, you get better and better and better at it. So that when you really need it, you might be shaking, but you won't look like you're shaking. You've practiced it. You've done it before. That's what I say. If you once you dismiss your first coach, your first technical person, it gets easier. And when you practice it, the first time it's going to be hard, but you keep practicing it and it'll start to come so that when you know your line, you can dismiss. And I've dismissed more than just a U9 coach. That was just the youngest ever. But you get more practiced and more well-versed in handling it.
Wow. What about you, Yuzim? Because you started off pretty young. So what can the new refs or the young refs, what can they borrow from you? What would you give them to build that confidence?
So I started, yeah, like you said, I started out when I was 15. Back then I didn't have enough courage to, so I was just like, oh, what's going on? So back then I was just like quiet, listen to what they have to say, said the magic word, "Are you done?" and just give them. A lot of times silence says more than giving them words. So of course, yes, it's a part of frustration, but like mentioned in the past, do not take it and letting it go. And then as I evolve and go out to the next level, um, of course, addressing what the issue is, what my thought was, and letting them know what was going on. I did have, sorry, I muted myself. A comment made to me, addressing why I was referring it and why a woman should ref it. And of course, I said, excuse me, I could be as good as a man or better. But I think most of the part, I am a person that believes in not having an argument. And I think that is one thing that I should do better. But a lot of times, silence says a lot more words than speaking. But of course, we don't want to do that. So addressing it with the right words, right personality, and of course, as mentioned in the past, basing on the laws of the game.
And do you all feel like this is something like even, I didn't start roughing until I was an adult, and I do this because I get paid to exercise. That's kind of how I look at it. And then I learned so much, and now it's just kind of a part of my life, right? But as people are developing their refereeing capacity and range at various, depending on when they come in, it almost feels like here, this is a perfect segue into managing conflict, during a game, because this can be one of those situations that if I'm not as confident about this particular call or addressing this particular behavior, um, and if they become pretty aggressive towards me, how do I manage that? So when you guys said, deal with the behavior, that is so freaking spot on because you're separating the person from their behavior. And whenever we do that, it is to your point, Becky, you described it beautifully. I talked about what he said, not who he was. And that is what creates enough space for someone to feel shame. Hopefully a healthy sense of shame. Like I shouldn't have said that. I'm going to stop that because we always address the behavior. So if we take away anything from today, Becky really described beautifully, and Yuzim definitely supported that with let's look at the behavior. That's why we have the laws of the game. It talks about these are the rules, this is the expectation. And so when we address that, dissent is the answer. They don't have to like it, but that is the answer. Right? And so you have two beautiful ways of thinking about sending off a coach or managing, something that's very personal and public and provocative about you because of whatever their issue is. And if we combine that with both of them saying, that's not your business. Well, don't even take that on. If they want to throw that at you, that's on them. You don't have to accept that. That's why we learn the laws of the game and the considerations. And so as that segues into managing conflict, there's more than just the coaches. There's those players who want that foul, who don't want that foul. How do you all even manage that? Because Becky, you talked about foul recognition and it got really good really quickly. But what about that conflict that ensues? Because one team is going to be happy, one team is not. How do we manage that?
Well, if half the people are happy, then we did pretty well, right? Or if everybody's upset, there's always going to be conflict, right? And that we are the center of the conflict resolution, right? And I think it kind of depends on people's philosophy when they come out to the soccer game. Mine has always been, and maybe that was something I was taught a long time ago, but I still agree with it, that at the end of the game, the players should remember the shots they scored, the shots they missed, the battles that they had with their opponents. The referee is a complete afterthought. If you do your job, even if, yes, you have to send someone up, even if you have to call the penalty kick, if that is what is appropriate to the game, people won't remember you. You'll disappear because what they'll remember is the thing they're supposed to remember, the magic of what the players did, the magic of what the players accomplished. And so for me, dealing with conflict is all about our relationships with people, right? We are individuals. We are going to meet individuals. As much as we can gather about, what people look like or sound like or move like, we can make certain assumptions, but it's really connecting with each person out there. Different people have different techniques. I have been advised several times to be bigger with my gestures on the field. And you know what? When I ref some teams and some cultures, it works really well. With other teams, other cultures, other people, being very small gestured, being very talk one-on-one works really well. And so it's really what can you do to connect with people that will help on the front end of a lot of the conflicts. When I work with players, a lot of the times I make sure I'm approachable, and I don't want approachable as da 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 da. Arms up here is always a no-no, and I tell them arms down. Arms down. Talk to me with your voice. Talk to me with your voice. Come to me. You can ask me a question. We can have a chat. I'll hold the play. We'll have a conversation. And when you follow through and you really do that, you gain their trust, you gain their respect. When I'm backing up a wall, I'm not saying, get over here, get over here. No, it's over here. Said, all right, whether it's males, females, all right, folks, we're taking a walk, we're going 10. When they get there, I say, thank you very much. Please stay. And we move on. Politeness, and I've talked with Tori Penzo, if people know that name, they should. Please and thank you goes a long way. And so I use it a lot. I've been told I use it too much, but you know what? I get a lot from those players. I get a lot from those coaches. I have dealt with coaches who are known for being, I call it big and excitable, and they don't do that in my matches. I've seen players verbally tear apart other referees. The dissent goes 10 yards, lots of arms, lots of loud. They don't do that with me very often. I don't tolerate it, for one, and I also ask them to approach me in a different way. And when I treat them with respect, they show that respect to me. And so that can help. Your personality that you bring to the field can help tremendously with conflict.
So what I'm hearing, and I always try to reframe things because I need I'm a commercial baby. I I need 10 seconds. That's all my brain can hold.
And I'm long-winded.
No. I love it because it gives the richness, right? And then we put a bow on it. So what I'm hearing you say is that if you establish respectful relationships with boundaries for what you will respond to and will not respond to, that sets the tone. So when you follow through with that in a consistent way for you, that's kind of the messenger that goes out to people. She feels approachable, right? That's a feeling. Right. And one of the things that we have as women is we have empathy. We have sensors. We have a sixth sense about things, and people generally feel safer with us. So if we, generally speaking, not everybody, but generally speaking, they feel like, oh, she'll get it, she'll understand, or whatever, until we don't. And then there's a whole different thing. But if we know what we are going to tolerate, what we're not going to tolerate, and if we work on establishing those relationships early on that are respectful, it makes the game go smoother. Doesn't mean there's not going to be hiccups, but it sounds like it makes the game go smoother if we start early in the game, establishing the kind of relationships we want with people. Did I get that?
Right. And being respectful and being respected, that doesn't mean that you lay down like a rug. You're still an authority. When you do those pregame meetings, when you're meeting the players and you're it's not an attendance list, how do they call it? Going through the roster, right? Making sure the players are there and going over their equipment. You start there. That's where they start. If they have questions and you offer, do you have a question? We go through. Sometimes you can even joke with the players or the coaches. Show them you have a personality, but hey, we're going to do this. We're going to go through everybody right now. And that's how we're going to get it done. If anybody's coming late, please let them come over and check in with me. And you see, you toss in a little please. It leaves that openness. So it starts at the very beginning of the game. Get that start so that you can continue it.
Beautiful. What about you, Yuzim? What are some ways that you handle conflict?
I think, as Becky mentioned, using the words please and thank you, that would always, help out. Majority of the times, trying to make a relationship with the players will help you not just with game management, but also for you to, feel comfortable out there and address a certain issue when there is one. And yeah, of course, having a personality and let them know what will be accepted and what not will be, and what not will be accepted. Sorry, I can't speak today. Oh God. And of course, letting you know that I do have a personality, and when I need to address a certain issue, I will address it. But if I can't, I will try to meet you halfway, or talk to my assistants or talk to a player in order for me to help address what the issue is. And if not, try to find a way to figure it out, whether it's directly or using your assistance.
Mhm. And so what I'm hearing you say, Yuzim, is that having that personality, making sure you're fair and consistent, is a big part of that, and being respectful, that please and that thank you. Did I get that? Or did I miss anything? Because I feel like I might have missed something.
I think you got everything.
Okay. And one of the things that stands out, Becky and Yuzim, and I want you guys, ladies and guys, but ladies, definitely share your thoughts, your comments, your questions. And Yuzim, I've worked with you enough. I say ladies and gentlemen, depending if it's a male, men's or women's game. Thank you, ladies. Yes, sir, if they have a question, right? And it's really hard, and that works for me. I'm not sure how it works for other people, but it's really hard to disrespect somebody that's been respectful to you, just even out of nowhere. At the time, 1 second, sir. Right? It is so hard to be angry with them. You could call a field goal. I mean, and they're just like, this isn't American football. What do we? Oh, well, right. And there's something about how Becky talked about laying that foundation of respect from check-in. Good afternoon, ma'am, ladies and or good afternoon, gentlemen. Yuzim knows I call everyone gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. Walk with me, gentlemen. Walk with me, ladies. Right? And it's just really hard. It softens everything and it makes you human. Right? And then I love the zingers that Becky, said to practice. Those are things that are wonderful. My favorite zinger is, you missed another one, ref. I'm like, I missed 2, you missed 5. I mean, I'm still doing pretty good, right? And it's just like sometimes you have those little things that come back, but you do have to practice them. And so as as Becky and Yuzim are talking about, how to handle conflict and what to expect as a referee, they're also giving you some really solid techniques of how to practice those singers, of how to develop relationships before you even get on the pitch, starting with the check-in, and how to maintain and manage that throughout the game to reduce that kind of conflict that might come up. Which leads us into my next area, which is the last area. We went through all 5 of these. You see how women were efficient like that? I trusted us. I knew we could get it done. And I think this is probably the best one to have for last, because this is a hard one. What do we do, ladies, when we feel unsafe? When we either during a game or after a game? I know for some of you're doing club games, and those are great. Many of us won't get to the level that Becky is at, right? That's pretty high, but we can aspire, and we're going to get those more challenging games. But what do we do, Becky, using when we feel unsafe during a game? Do we call it? Like, what do we do, or after a game? Uh-oh.
Am I jumping first? Yeah, this one I had to think about because I guess it's feeling unsafe it's something that doesn't happen suddenly. If you pay attention to the small signs that lead up to it. And so just like we've talked about with coaches and setting a line, be aware, just like we are with persistent offenses, right? Be aware of what's going on. When things start to seem a little like they're going in the wrong direction, if I'm talking during a game, see if we can bring it back. And if we can't bring it back, stop the game sooner rather than later. I've heard from far too many referees, both female and male, when they'll say, oh, well, then there was a fight and then we restarted the game and there's this fight and we restarted the game. And I'm sitting here going, why did you restart the game? Just end it and abandon the match. Write up a report. It's over. Do not have anyone convince you to go back. If you're unsafe, the players are unsafe, the rest of your crew is unsafe, just end it before something actually happens. End it. There's always signs that it's getting to that point. End it. and leave, and do not feel guilty. Not at all. I left a game one time. I was not the referee. I was an assistant. We left the game. I walked away. There was stuff going on, and I just was like, we were all off the field. The players were saying that. I said, I'm done. I left. I got in my car, drove away, a couple blocks away. Then I called the police. Because when you call that 911 operator, they're going to ask you, are you in a safe place right now? You have to be able to say yes in order to have the police come and report and everything follow. And so do what you need to do. If you have the whistle and you have the power, I've been that person too. And I said, I don't like what this looks like. No one had thrown a punch yet. But I said, you know what? Those players aren't safe. I'm not safe. My crew isn't safe. This is no longer a safe space. Game's over. I had one person say, are you sure? I said, yes, game is over. We left. I had a player who was not on the offending team come and tell me after the game. He said, I'm so glad you did that. Not enough referees protect us. Mm. And so when those situations, when it comes to game situations, and I have situations outside of games too, but when it comes to game situations, know that it's always in your power to walk away if you don't feel safe. Always. And always exercise that power. It shouldn't happen often, but you always have that right.
Yeah. So, Yuzim, what are your suggestions and your thoughts, when refs feel unsafe, whether this is their first game, their second game, their 50th game, what should they do?
Coming to this topic, I feel like being safe, I take it as just as trust. Once trust is broken, you can't get it back. And I take the same thing with feeling safe and unsafe. Back when I started, there were shots close by our field. I didn't feel safe. And so I went to somewhere safe, like Becky said, and I called the assigner. I let them know this is going on. I do not want to go back. What should I do? And he's like, go to your car, go somewhere safe, and I'll let the coaches know what is going on. That you don't want to go back out there and ref it. And I think that it's not just with us as referees. I mean, it's also with talking to other people, whether it's your mentor, your assigner, even coaches, letting them know what is going on. As mentioned, meet them halfway, and let them know what's going on. Because us as referees, we're not robots. We also have feelings. And of course, talking to someone, letting them know what's going on and what way do you feel will make you feel even better. It will make you feel safe when making a decision like that, when it comes to being safe. Because of course we might feel like, oh, we mess up here and there, but I feel like when it's something much more personal, being safe or feeling confident, that takes not just one person, but it takes empathy from someone else, or just hearing someone out and let them know what the issue is, and let them know how could you work that out or get out from that issue, if that makes sense.
So what I'm hearing both of you say, if I put it together, is pay attention to what's escalating. Pay attention to what's missing in order for things to not escalate or for things to calm down. If what's missing is an adult on each side of the pitch coaching the players, right? If what's missing is people being able to regulate and calm themselves down, and they're just going more and more, and the coach won't step in or what have you, then pull that courage, because it's not even about just feeling confident, but knowing that you have the power to call a game. You have the power to abandon a match. So it's important, ladies, to know what you have the power to do. Did I get that?
Yeah, I love the way Yuzim said it. When the trust is broken, when there's no more trust, that really, to me, that really sums it up. When that trust is broken, I mean, We come out here to play a game. And for those 90 minutes, the ball is the most important thing, right? Get it in the goal. We all come into that I guess fantasy land, right? Um, but we have to have that trust. Everybody trusts the laws of the game, and that's how we're all going to play. The referee's there to enforce it. Once that trust is broken, like Yuzim said, we can't get it back. We
Yeah,
can't get it back. Well
absolutely.
said.
I want to add, because we're going to wrap up, I want to add just a couple of things, and I'm going to share a story. So as a referee, Becky Yuzim, I'm not sure if you guys do this, but this is what I heard, and I've seen most referees do this, is we back into our parking spots. We back in, if you're a driver, back into your parking spot, because you may have to pull right out and throw your bag in the car and pull right out. So that's one safety space, and you want to park someplace that's away from where most spectators are, and you want to be able to exit away from the spectator. So just some basic, safety tips. Um, Generally speaking, if it's a higher intensity game, you want to leave right after. There's really not a need to shake hands. Leave right after, grab your things and go. Do some research on the teams. If it's a team that's gotten 80 million red cards, I'm exaggerating, but the point is if this team is known for mass confrontations, known for being ejected, whatever the case may be smart. Is that a game you want to take? Right? For club, you can pretty much pick the games that you want. So be smart in the games that you pick. Pick games or select games that you're able to referee and manage and practice your management skills. So that's something else so you can develop and grow, especially if you're going to have the whistle, right? And whenever possible, try to be on a crew where there's a seasoned ref on that crew. If it's all three of you are new, that happens sometime, but try to find a crew where there's somebody who's refed for a few years. So then that way, you're all not newbies. Is there anything else, Becky, Yuzim, that you might want to add on just in terms of safety and from the very beginning?
When you leave the game, walk with your crew for as close. If you didn't park next to each other or know that, at least walk off the field and be heading towards parking lots together. At least leave the field together. Those numbers will help you.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
are much more willing to approach a person by themselves than they are a group of people, even if it's a group of three. So.
And I know for our UPSL games, we try to park in three in a row. We try to park together. So that's an excellent one for sure.
Yeah,
You,
if you know your crew and you can get them all together, great. If you don't, a lot of these games we're coming to where we don't know who we're working with, we just kind of arrive there, but at least walk off the field all together. Wait for everybody to grab all of their belongings and walk off the field together.
yeah. And if you're a minor, ask one of your parents, even if you're 16, 17, ask one of your parents to be there. Yuzim, Papa Bear's always there, and she's grown, right? But ask an adult to be with you just to keep eyes on.
And they can come and meet you on the side where, the teams and the referees have parked their stuff. The game's over, they can come over, and walk with that crew off of the field for sure.
Yeah. Yuzim, was there anything else that you might want to add?
Not much. But of course, the whole world of soccer is, I think, is very little. So there might be times where you might overhear certain conversation from a team. Or if you're new to refereeing, reach out to the assigner, let them know, what is the history of these two teams. And then you could kind of sense the temperature of the water, um, and go on from there. But of course, I think most of the part is doing research of the teams will help you a lot. And as Becky said, once you're on the field, leave with your crew so that way someone doesn't feel like, oh, it's easier for me to approach this person. And so of course, teamwork it makes the team work. So of course, you guys are a crew, and referees, we're all family, so reach out to your peers and let them know. I think, as I mentioned the previous, let the people know what you're feeling and say, I'm not feeling safe. Could you come out with me and at least, um, help me take my things to the car? I think it would help a lot. But yeah, you
And
hit all the spots.
awesome. And I wanted to share a quick real story, and Jenny can confirm this, that I had a game a couple years ago where a parent was ejected from a club game. It was a U15. It wasn't even, it was just a nice fun game. Uh Left, came back, stood behind a minor, AR1, was asked to leave, would not leave, and there was a whole thing about it. Walked over to us, was like, "Do you want to see my card, my law card?" And we didn't know what that meant. Come to find out, we had to end up calling the police because we could not leave. He just kept following. We asked him several times, "Please go away, please walk away." He followed us to where our stuff was. And so we ended up calling the police. The police came. We ended up filing a report. And because we found out in the course of this thing, and I followed through with that, all three of us refs, we stuck together, we supported each other. Um, he was sanctioned. He was an attorney, and he was sanctioned by the bar. And so I want you to know that in the state of Illinois, if I'm not mistaken, Jenny, is it a felony? I forget what level of felony it is. No one is to put their hands on you. No one is to assault you in any way. Uh-oh. Did we lose
Right.
Jenny?
No, I'm here.
Okay. So if anyone ever puts their hands on it, did I get that right, or did I not get that right?
I mean, with the specific law, if hands are, I mean, it becomes at that point when you've got to call police, it becomes, I mean, we do our own overseeing in certain, extreme cases, but also it becomes, where it's the law. I mean, you're dealing with the police at that point.
Yeah. So I just want you all to know that
But
you don't.
but we are there to support. So if there's, certainly in very serious cases and even with Ginny, with you, when we weren't quite getting answers from the league, you certainly come to us and we can be your advocate.
Yeah, and I just want you all to know that the ISRC, they are really strong in their support of referees. So if you have any questions, always reach out, right? Because you're not alone. And this is for every referee, not just for females. This is just for every referee. So I just want to make sure you guys are safe and that you feel safe and you know how to keep yourself safe. And it starts from getting prepared for our game when we step on the pitch, being respectful, setting the tone, and minimizing the chances that anything does happen. But if, God forbid, something, kind of pops off, we want you to know what you can do so you're not afraid. Right. Definitely reach out to ISRC, and Jenny will walk you through the whole process. But once law enforcement gets involved, then that's a whole different thing, and we'll support you on that too, however you need help. But we also want you to know that that's why we created the Women's Initiative, because there are some things that we don't know, and there are some things that people might try to talk us out of. And we just want to make sure that it's your choice. We'll support whatever you choose to do in your career, and in tough times and in great times. We want to celebrate you, of course, but you have a family. You have people here who understand and who will listen and who will objectively give you guidance as best as possible, understanding with knowing what it feels like to be in the position that you might be in, right? So you're not just getting some blind guidance from somebody who might be blind themselves. We want you to know that you're supported and you're amongst friends. So with that said, are there any questions? Oh, John I have had coaches apologize after an IHSA game. They were caught up in the moment and realized the error in their ways. Communication is always key. Thank you tonight, ladies. One of the best sessions I've been a part of. Oh, thank you, John. We're glad that you made it and share this information with your daughter. Hopefully she'll come back on and take a whistle. We need more women in the middle. So yay. Any other questions or comments, ladies? We're going to wrap up by reminding you all of the advanced field session, November 10th. That's a Sunday. And Jenny, that's in Schaumburg, right?
Yes, that's in Schaumburg. We'll send out reminders. There is a Google sheet that you can register for that field session. And that's posted on our website.
And guess what, ladies? And this is what makes it like the bestest ever field session, because you all will get to share on that Google sheet what you want to learn more about. Because you've already had a field session, you've already had a season under your belt. So we're going to practice the thing that you might want to have more practice on. Like, how do I do an offside again? If they're both offside and he passes it back, do I pop my flag? It's like, nope, not offside. But if he passes it forward, then we pop our, just little things like that so we can brush up on our technique and apply the laws of the game more consistently, and just ask those questions. This happened on this one play. Is that accurate? Right. And we're going to have our video reviews and all that other good stuff on other development series. But mark your calendars, Sunday, November 10th. We're going to be in Schaumburg and we'll get to actually do live field sessions. So that way you can, get some practice on some of the questions that you might have had during the season. So write them down and keep track of them.
And then I believe all three of you will be there too, right?
Oh, you guys get to be with Becky and Yuzim. That's like the whole reason to go.
So bring your suggestions. Hey, bring your stories from this season. If you've had a challenging moment in a game, bring them. Bring them. We'll talk through it. We'll definitely talk through it. It's really important to debrief, decompress, and get it out of your system.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And maybe we'll bring ice cream.
Ooh.
Oh, maybe. I didn't make promises. Maybe we'll bring ice cream. We'll do some girl stuff after. But yeah, so thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We really enjoyed having you, and we can't wait to see you out on the pitch. And if you see us, wave, come and give us a hug, shake our hand, high five, anything. Thank you. See you on November 10th.
All right. Good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you,
ladies.
everyone.